Hello and welcome to another episode of the Prime Premier League podcast with myself and Doc. How are you, Doc? You right?
I'm very, very well, thank you. It's been a very good 10 days for the lovely Eagles. What about yourself as a loyal hammer? How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, mate. Not so good after the weekend, but we'll discuss that in a little while. So, just on tonight's agenda, Haaland scores back-to-back hat tricks. Man United pulled apart by Liverpool. Rice sees red, and Arsenal get the draw. Chelsea drop points at home to Palace. Everton 2 up and still managed to throw it away. Is it time for them to go down? And Southampton still looking for points. Doc, no better place to start than back-to-back hat tricks from the man, the human, the robot, whatever you want to call him this day and age, mate. Erling Haaland. Um, yeah, what are you making of his start to the season? 7 goals in 3 games.
So there's two factors for me with Haaland. I think this season he is scary. And the reason why I say he's scary is because if you hear the hype that's coming out of the Etihad with regards to the fact that it's the first time since he's been there where he's pain free, where he can be fully committed to training, where he's staying late after, it's like there's been a light bulb moment physically and mentally where I think he now realizes what he is capable of, and it's a scary, scary thought because I don't think we've seen the best of Haaland yet, and I do think that this year he could break his own records, and I think he can go to places that we've never ever seen before. What about yourself?
Yeah, I don't disagree. He's had a summer off, hasn't he? He didn't play any part in the summer, so he's had a summer off. He's been able to put his feet up, do what he wants to do for a couple of months, then come back bigger, better, and stronger by the looks of it. And people will say, yeah, but he's only playing Ipswich, he's only playing West Ham. You still got to put these chances in the back of the net. And the way he took 2 of his goals against West Ham was just phenomenal. And what I mean by that is his second one and his third one. Just unbelievable, just look like a different monster. And I agree with you. I think he goes on to break all sorts of records. And I think Harry Kane should be looking over his shoulder if he's not going to join back in the Premier League because Haaland could get that goal tally pretty quickly.
I honestly think Shearer needs to be looking in his behind the scenes as well. I think the only thing that's going to save Shearer is if Haaland moves on when Pep moves on. But if Haaland wants to and he stays committed to it, then Shearer's
Yeah.
is gone as well, I'm afraid.
The world's his oyster, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think it was
When's
Haaland's 11th Man City hat trick. And how
yeah.
long's he been? How long's he been at the club? 3 years.
I think it's his 21st hat trick of his career so far
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
for club and country. That's scary. But I've got a question for you. When will Haaland get the accolades that he deserves? Because obviously last year, even with how deadly he was, people are saying, quote, Roy Keane, not quite Roy Keane, but, he's build up play and everything else is a League One, League Two, and it still seems to be disrespect put on his name. Now, I think it's very, very obvious for anyone with A, a pair of eyes, and B, an understanding of football. Haaland does not want to get involved with build up play. Haaland does not care what's going on unless the ball's around the box, the opposition's box, and that's when he comes to life. Um, and when he comes to life, I mean, did you see the scary stat? I'm sorry to rub it in, but did you see the scary stat he's got against West Ham? A goal every 30. He got it down to 38 minutes at one point.
Yeah. Basically, when we play Man City, it's West Ham v Erling Haaland. And it's as simple
You
as
know,
that. But just going back to your question, I, I think people need to stop with the tap in merchant, this and that, because if he scores 50 tap ins and you go on to win the league, you're not really complaining. I think a lot of people, it's jealousy, especially around the football community. And for me, if he carries on the way he's going, he could arguably be the best striker we will ever see in our lifetime. With his stats that he's putting up now and the stats that he could go on to achieve. Now, for me, does he need to hold a ball up when he's got Kevin De Bruyne, when he's got Gundogan, when he's got Bernardo Silva, Jack Grealish, Phil Foden? Not really. These people are putting it on a sixpence for you, aren't they? And all he's got to do is just take his chances, and that's what he's doing at the moment. So For me, carries on the way he's going, will become the best striker we will ever see in our lifetime, and that's my honest opinion.
Funny thing about Haaland, and I thought about this the other night, and people are going to think I'm crazy, but it wouldn't be the first time, so I might as well put it out there. The only player that reminds me of a Haaland where they don't get involved with all the rest of it and come alive the way he does is actually the original R9. Now, don't get me wrong. The original R9 done it with a bit more flair, with a couple of step overs and a little bit more skill. But the bottom line was R9 got the credit when he put the ball in the net. No one ever spoke about R9 the way like they talk about Haaland when it comes to just goals. Now, yes, I do appreciate R9's hold up play and all the rest of it was a lot better. But ultimately, as a striker, it's your job to put the ball in the net. It's as simple as that. And I just cannot believe in this day and age someone that puts the ball in the net and makes it look so easy as well. And he's looking composed, like you said, them two finishes against you. You know, I think a year or so ago, he would have tried to blast them, and he might not have scored them. Whereas now he's got the composure, and he's a perfect example of you don't need to score worldies, as in they don't need to be top bins every time. You know, you can do a little dink over the keeper, and it looks beautiful. You can hit the target, and it looks good. You know, but the most important one is the one that hits the back of the net, and I don't think he cares how he scores his goals either.
Do you know what? It's funny you said it. I actually watched Match of the Day Saturday night, and they said when they were doing the analysis on his third goal, they said that he runs through, and Fabianski anticipates that he's going to put it in the bottom left, at which where he would save with his foot with the way he set himself up. He said, but what he don't anticipate is that he's going to dink him, and that's exactly what he did. He dinked him, and it's
He
just
sat him
when you
down, though, didn't he? He
yeah
sat him down. He actually sat him down. And to say he's attacking merchant, the run, the way he kept himself online. Now, the pass had to be the key. If the pass was 1 second sooner, he's offside. But the fact that he managed to get himself onside before the pass was made, you know, if Thierry Henry done that, we would be absolutely screaming from the rooftops.
bearing in mind I actually thought City scored against the runner player as well, so just shows you how good they are, didn't it, Doc? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And let's be fair, R9, just going back to what you said about R9 never played in the Premier League. Now, Haaland's putting up stats that we probably ain't never going to see again. So, the world's his oyster. That's what I'm going to say. And I hope that we
He's
see
still
him for
young.
a very, very long time to
He,
come.
he's still young. He ain't even hit his prime yet. That's the scary, worrying thing.
Top moving on. Man United, were they pulled apart? Were Liverpool good? Were Man United bad? Now, what I want to say is Manchester United probably had their best transfer window in a very long time in the signings that they made. And them signings started yesterday, bar one, which was a guy who was signed too late to start against Liverpool. Is this now a theme that Ten Hag is proper in trouble now? Because I'm seeing reports today that he's on the verge of a sack already. Um, what are you making of this Man United, mate? Because they've made the signings that the fans wanted and it still ain't happening.
So you've asked me a couple of questions there, and I do want to carefully speak about all three. So the first thing is with regards to Manchester United. For me personally, regardless of the signings they've made, they lost the game predominantly in the middle of the park, which is where the new signing would have been. So, you know, for me, Casemiro is a liability. I've said it last year and I'll say it again. Yes, obviously, um, he won't be in that starting team when this new guy comes in, a Ugarte. But that being said, um, the Ugarte deal should have been done a lot sooner. Now, I have been speaking to a few Manchester United fans, and they do make a valid point with regards to the fact that it was all dependent on Sancho and also McTominay going to free up the availability to go and get him, which is absolutely fine. I get that. I do understand that. But that being said, whatever way you look at it, that decision is what's cost them. Because if they would have got him in 3 weeks ago, bearing in mind that don't forget that all of their other transfers was done really, really early in the window. The only one that sort of dragged out a little bit was De Ligt, but they knew at that point De Ligt wanted to come. If they would have put the same energy into getting to the guy, bearing in mind that they already had the centre back there, um, I just don't understand with why they drag their heels with how important the middle of the park is for me. So that should have been done and dusted. And if he was in earlier, I think he would have been available more for the Liverpool game, and I think the game would have been a bit more competitive. So that's the first aspect. The second aspect, I'm going to do something a little bit different tonight, Big P. I am going to give Liverpool a little bit of props to all the people that think that I'm anti-Liverpool and think that I'm so biased. Liverpool under Slot look a lot more compact, composed, and organised than they did under Klopp. Now, Klopp had this high press, which Slot has as well. But the difference between the two, in my opinion, is Klopp was gung ho all the time with the high press, and Slot knows when the team needs to be compact and when they need to go into press and when they need to get back into shape and not worry about the press. And it's been impressive from Slot. And I think that if he carries on going the way he does, then I don't think you'll even be talking about Klopp in the near future. I think it will be Arnie, Slot, Slot, Slot. But that being said, I still think Liverpool will get found out in certain games. I still think a Manchester City will put them to the sword. So again, it's too early to tell how good Slot is, but I do want to give Slot a little bit of props. So yes, I don't think it's the case of what you said. I generally don't think Liverpool blew Man United away, because without the two mistakes, it would have been a 1-0 game, which isn't blowing a team away, is it? So I think there's a little bit of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But I do want to say that Slot has got it pretty spot on at the moment. And if he carries on going like that, then I think Liverpool will be absolutely fine. We'll be right up there. And yeah, like the Liverpool fans anticipated, it will be no drop off at all. And with regards to Ten Hag's future, he's going to be gone. He's going to be gone. He's not going to see the year out. There's no way they're going to offer him a new deal, regardless. Even the loyalist Man United fans are starting to turn on him now. I think he's running out of excuses. I don't think no one's buying what he's selling anymore with the waffle that's coming out of his mouth. And yeah, like I said, I think I can't see him being in his job for much longer. So we shall see. I'd love to hear your take on United, though. What's your take?
I actually thought, Doctor, they were the better side for the first 10 minutes of the game. And I thought, actually, when Trent scored, it was against a run of play. And I thought, of course, United play like this for 90 minutes. They could cause some problems here. And then it just went from, as Tom said, it was a Ten Hag disaster class. And for me, Doc, I think he's the first one to go. And I think he'll go very, very soon. And I think United fans have give him enough time, have had patience with him, and as you just said, it's slowly wearing off. And there is, I think we've got him in a couple of weeks actually, and if we beat him at home, then I think it's finished for him curtains. But I just want to address.
I don't. Sorry to interrupt. I don't think it's you. I think he got a buy with regards to beating Fulham, which I think they struggled.
Yeah,
I think then going on to losing to Brighton was, yeah, well, it's just a blip. He'll get it right. Don't worry about it. It's early days. But if they lose to a small team, then I think he's on his last legs.
Could this man be on his way in there? Arise, Sir Gareth Southgate. Good evening, Tom.
Okay, mate.
Doc, just talking while we're still on the theme of Man United and Liverpool. Obviously, Liverpool's, I think it was the second goal where Salah plays it with the outside of his boot. Diaz hits it first time. Took me back a couple of years to when Salah was probably at his best. Now, after the game, I asked you earlier if you watched the interview. After the game, Salah said that basically there's no new deal on the table for him. Do you anticipate this is his last season in a Liverpool shirt, or do you think that new offer will come in from Liverpool?
It's a funny one, really. It's a funny one. And the reason why I say this is there's two factors that's worrying. Number one, why the hell is there not a new offer on the table from Liverpool? That's the first factor, right? And that being said, if you read into what Salah's ultimately said, he's sort of giving you hope that if there is an offer there, that he might be able to take it. Because if he was ultimately not interested in a new deal, then I don't think he would talk about it. So I feel like he's forcing their hand to get that deal like put in place. So I do think that there is hope for him to stay now. But me personally, I think with his age, I think the right thing to do for Liverpool would be to offer him a new deal and try to get as much money for him as possible with the sale of him um, in the very near future, because he's coming of an age and they need to move on from the Salah era at some point. I'll be very, very surprised if they let him walk away for free. And if they do let him walk away for free, then I don't care what any football fan says. It's bad business. You should not be letting someone of Salah's capabilities, especially with the amount of money that's been put on the table for a club that ultimately has to sell to buy. It's not acceptable to be letting a player of that caliber walk away from your football club for free. So it's bad business, whatever way you look at it.
Do you know what I found quite surprising is the fact that he's done it after 3 games. I found that very surprising. It's not like it's got to Christmas and there's still no offer on the table, and in January the foreign clubs can come bidding for you, but you've done it after 3 games. Do you know what I mean? That's what I found very interesting. So
I think he was honest and open, though, wasn't he? What he was basically saying was he feels like that's the last time he's going to play at Old Trafford. So
yeah,
at the end of the day, that could only come after the Manchester game. So if the Manchester game was in 2 months, it would have happened then. Unfortunately for us, it's like what I said to you when Palace West Ham play. The games are coming too soon. I don't want to see Liverpool play Man United right now, because now we've still got the ifs, buts, and maybes. I would have much rather seen Man United Liverpool 2 weeks after the transfer window, when United are at full stretch and when Liverpool have got their new signings available, and then we'll assess the situation. Because I just can't help but think that there's still a lot of deluded fans out there that are getting too carried away too soon after 3 games, and could end up having egg on their faces real soon. So I'm looking forward to people eating a bit of humble pie, because someone somewhere is going to have to eat it.
Tom says the speed that Liverpool were moving through the lines left Man United players all out of position. They kept getting sucked in. Yeah, just Liverpool were quick. And I actually texted Breeze last night and said that I was quite impressed with Liverpool. Again, it's a bit of breaking news for you guys, because I'm not the biggest fan of Liverpool, but I actually thought they were not very good, but I thought they were good, and they deserve their victory. Tom says they do them games early in the season, though, so it's not around European games. I think, yeah, I think there's a whole rigmarole. We could do a whole show on Europe, the way the League Cup draw was done. Do you know what I mean? I just don't agree with any of it, but we'll carry
It
on.
doesn't work like that, though. It doesn't work like that, though. There's nothing in the rules of how any explanation has been that fixtures are done like that. It's supposed to be done as a random. It's not supposed to be done for biasness, and therefore, it's just one of them things.
Yeah, I don't agree. Like, obviously, I take it you see the League Cup draw the other night. It was a joke, mate. It was a joke. But that's a whole different show on its own. The European teams were put into one pot. Everyone else was put into another. The European teams were drawn out before 7 o'clock to see if they were home and away, and then everyone else was drawn out. It is what it is. But
Well, the funny thing with that cut is, as far as I'm concerned, they are making it so obvious that they want to see one of the top six, even the top seven now in the final, that they may as well just remove everyone else and just have their own little League Cup that is just for the top six, and be done with it. It's very, very biased, but each to their own. I just hope that we see an underdog win that this year, to really stick their middle finger up at everyone.
yeah, same here. Doc, we did touch on it earlier on TikTok. We have had a few interesting conversations. Declan Rice sees red, kicks the ball away. Arsenal drop points at home. I've got 2 questions here. One, was it a justified red card? And 2, Arsenal dropping points this early on in the season. isn't going to bode well for them come the end of the season with the fixtures they got coming up as well. What did you make of the Rice red card, mate?
I can't believe that people are still talking about it. That's what I can't believe. I can't believe in this day and age where everyone should know and understand the laws of the game, how it's still a talking point. Because again, whenever this question is asked, when you answer this question, people move the goalpost to, yeah, but this person got away with it, this person got away with it, this person did this person done that. There's no consistency. Now, I just want to bring you back to the word consistency. There's a law, there's a letter of the law when it comes to football, and to get consistency, they've got to consistently hold people to the letter of the law. Declan Rice was held to the letter of the law. He knew exactly what he was doing. He deliberately kicked the ball away to prevent the quick free kick. He wouldn't have been kicked if he didn't move the ball that the guy was trying to kick. So, yes, it's a second yellow card. Yes, that's ultimately a sending off offence, not a red card offence like some people are saying, because he wasn't sent off for it. And if there was any justification in the world, he would have actually got injured from the kick as well, and that would have taught him a lesson.
Tom put it's definitely a second yellow. He kicks the ball away, P. It wouldn't have been talked about still if João Pedro didn't kick it away first. Now, the João Pedro thing I haven't seen, but I do agree with Doc in the fact of he knows what he's doing, Declan. He kicks the ball away to try and save time to get himself back into position, and unfortunately that position was back on his bench in the changing room. Arsenal fans need to calm down with this one a little bit because if it was the other way round, they would be up in arms had that Brighton player not been sent off. For me, he knew what he was doing. It's a second yellow. It's a red card. Unfortunately, he's at the North London derby, and he's probably just cost you that North London derby and all because of that. Declan, I think your midfield falls apart.
You know what annoys me?
Go on.
He's Gunner fans. Not all the Gunner fans, because there are some sensible, level-headed ones. I have got a couple of them. The majority of them, not so much so, but I've got a couple of them.
When you say a
That
couple, like
was
one
my
hand or
football.
two hands?
Sorry?
When you say a couple, what, one hand or two hands?
One hand,
Okay.
one hand. If that was me as a football fan, I would be livid with my player. I would not defend him. I would not justify him. I would be livid. If that was Eze that had done that and Eze was missing the Brighton game, I would be livid with Eze. Absolutely livid with him. No ifs, no buts, no maybe. Imagine if Mateta had done that and Palace went into the Brighton game with no Mateta. I'd be livid with him. When are these football fans going to accept and take it on the chin that it's not the ref, it's your player? And sometimes we have to criticize our own team. You know, if our own team are doing wrong, please stop trying to justify it with your waffle because no one's listening. No one is listening to you. You're just trying to defend your own. Now, I get why you're trying to defend your own, but when it's no defense, stop it. Just stop it. And that goes for every football club. Just stop it. It's embarrassing.
Arsenal fans are fueled by Arteta. He's stirring it up every time. And then Tom goes on to my pet hate, and I can't stand Arteta for this. No one talks about how Arteta is out of his technical area the whole game, and when that's a bookable offence. Tom hit the nail on the head, mate. I can't stand it when he does that. But moving away from Arsenal, Chelsea obviously run out 6-2 winners away at Wolves last weekend. I said to Doc last Monday, did it paper over the cracks? Crystal Palace side went to Stamford Bridge yesterday, and it's not an informed Crystal Palace side, but it was a good enough Crystal Palace side to go there and get a result. Doc, two questions. What did you make of Palace? I've heard a little bit, but what did you make of Palace? And two, is it just the same old Chelsea?
So the first thing with regards to Crystal Palace, I think the fact one thing that we noticed, especially with the squad that we put on paper, it just goes to show how desperate we are for these new signings to come in because that was one of the weakest benches I've seen in a long, long time. That being said, having that bench so weak highlighted what a good point it was for us. Now, performance wise, I'm not going to sit here and dress it up and say it was one of Palace's best performances. The first half, we looked a little bit out of sorts. We looked like we was a little bit I don't know if we were skeptical or cautious or whatever. I think the goal come against the run of the play a little bit, but ultimately there was only one team in the first half that was the better team, and that was Chelsea. That being said, I think that the game turned on its head when Will Hughes got taken off. Now, yes, I'm a realistic fan. I'm not going to sit here and justify it. Will Hughes has made a deliberate foul on the edge of his own box in 5 minutes into the first half, and to the letters of the law, he probably should have got a second yellow card, right? And he would have been off the pitch. And if he would have been off the pitch, it would have been a different outcome, I'm sure. That being said, many games of football, and when people say they want consistency, how many times do you see people that have been booked that commit another foul and get the final warning before the referee sends them off?
Yep.
So for me personally, he was given a final warning. He was given the benefit of the doubt because of how soon it was into the second half. And credit to Glasner, he got him off the pitch quicker than you could say abracadabra. And the fact that he brought the Corey on was where the game changed. The minute the Corey came onto that pitch, and the one thing I would say is the Corey coming back into that Palace team is like a new signing in its own right because he was out for the whole of last year, and it just goes to show how he can compete with, you know, the so-called best of the best in his position with regards to Casado that's worth £100 million allegedly. And he turned the game on its head, the Corey, for me. And Palace's shape and he gave us confidence. He wins the ball back so quick that the turnaround is there before you can blink. And he put Palace on the front foot. And the second half, we were the better team. And I think as a whole, the draw was the fair result. And it's a very, very good point for Palace to take. Because we would have been ultimately going into the international break with no points at all, which is never nice. I wouldn't have been worried. I wouldn't have been concerned. But the fact that we've just took a point off Chelsea, and that's after beating Norwich convincingly 4-0, it just goes to show what we're about. And I think in the next few weeks, especially with Leicester being our first game back, I can see us doing a job on Leicester and sending a message to the Premier League that Palace are back.
I was going to say about obviously midweek you'd beat Norwich 4-0 and up. I actually looked over your team when he put it out because I was after we had played you the week before. I was quite interested in see what way Glasner would go with this. And one thing I will say is, although it's the worthless cup, the Carabao Cup, whatever you want to call it, he put out a strong side for that Norwich game, didn't he? And I think he made a statement there that this is your last chance to some of them players that were playing. And obviously Mateta went on and got two. I think Eze got a goal, didn't he? And so on. So hats off to Glasner for that because he could have quite easily just changed the whole 11 and gone, do you know what, go out and deal with it. And he didn't.
I think he realised at that point that the one thing I would say about Glasner, right, and this is the one biggest credit that I'll give to Glasner, when we lose a game of football, he doesn't dress it up, right? He doesn't make excuses. He may well brush it under the carpet quite quickly and say, like, we won't dwell on it, we're on to the next one. But he always wants to rectify a loss quite quickly. So the fact that he lost 2 games on the bounce has played a massive key part on him ultimately going out to win a game of football, whether it was the cup or whether it wasn't the cup. And now I generally think he would have put that team out regardless. Now, will we see that strong team every single week in the cup? It's a risky one. It's a risky one because ultimately the league is a long way away. When you knew that you were bringing in new personnel and you knew that the window was shutting, I think it was a calculated risk and it paid off. And I do believe it played a massive part in us getting a little bit of form and the players getting a little bit of confidence going into this game. And that was ultimately the be all and end all of it. I just don't think he can do that every single cup game. I think he's going to need to trust some of these fringe players, and he's going to need to, I don't want to see Mateta playing every single week in the league and the cups. I don't like to see it when Arsenal do it with Saka, and I don't want to see my club doing it either. So it's one of them ones we do need to be careful.
Doc, do you not think though that Glasner may not put the Premier League on the back burner because obviously it is the league and it is the longest amount of it's the most amount of games in the longest season. But do you not think that he may treat this Carabao Cup as something that Crystal Palace could win this year?
I can't answer that question because I'm not Glasner. I understand the question. I understand why people might think that, but I just think you've got to be realistic. I think from a Crystal Palace perspective, when we finished 10th last year, have we this year got a better chance of finishing 10th or higher, or B, winning a cup? And for me personally, the answer to that question is A. You cannot expect to win a cup when, regardless of how serious you take it, it's all dependent on how serious the big boys take it. Now, if City take that cup seriously, City win that cup. It's as simple as that. You know,
I
it's
think
not.
in a one-off game, Palace or even West Ham, any of the little sides, in a one-off game can beat these bigger clubs. Now, for me, I generally think if you finish 12th or 11th this season and won a Carabao Cup, that's just as successful as what you had last season finishing 10th.
Yes, agreed. But again, I want to be consistent. The league is your bread and butter. The league is the hardest competition that you play in. Yeah, the league is much harder, much more important than the Worthington Cup. Now, the only exception to the rule, and this is the weird thing, if you win the cup and you get the European spot off the back of winning the cup, then you don't need the higher finish. But that being said, Crystal Palace's goal now, in my eyes, in my opinion, is we've established ourselves as a Premiership team. We now need to establish ourselves as a top team, 10 Premiership team. So I don't want to see us going back down to 11th. If we go back down to 11th this year or 12th this year because of the loss of some of the players and it's the rebuild, that's absolutely fine. But I don't want to go backwards. I want to go forwards as a club. So I want to be established as a top 10 Premiership team every single year. So that's my take on it. Now, again, you ask the Palace board and you ask everyone else, they might have a different answer to that. But me personally, I want to see my team as an established top 10 team.
Well, it's funny you should say that because Tom goes on to say we need to be consistent in the league first before we think about going far in these cups, Big P. Only problem is I see if that we may lose players again next season and we have to rebuild again. Maybe, but let's not talk about next season. You've got the players that you've got this year. I think only next season you'll lose Geehy, maybe. I'm not going to say you'll definitely lose him because I don't think you will. I think he'll actually go on to sign a new contract, but Geehy will be the only one I think that would leave Palace next year, or unless a silly offer come in for one of the others. But I just don't see
Mateta
that.
as well. Mateta as well. He's
If
openly
Mateta
saying
can,
he wants Champions
if
League.
Mateta can pull up the numbers that he did last season or the second half of last season, 100%. But we can wait and see. We're talking non-factual and what ifs and maybes. But moving on now, Everton 2-0 up, Doc, lose 3-2, or they conceded 3 in 12 minutes at home to Bournemouth. I watched Bournemouth on Wednesday night, and I was quite impressed with Bournemouth actually. But Everton 2-0 up at home at Goodison Park, you'd probably say that they should be going on to win that game. My question around this is: one, is this Everton's final straw? Because they got a lot going on at that football club at the minute, haven't they?
I have always said Everton was that club that will always manage to grind out enough results to stay up. However, Everton is their own worst enemy as a football club. Everton is their own downfall as a football club. Their owners, the stability that they've put into the club, the fact that they're losing players, it's all their own fault. As a club, the owners that's caused this, no one else. This isn't financial fair play. This is nothing else. This is the owners trying to manage building a new ground while paying for the old ground, which is ludicrous that no other football club has ever done before, right? And for me personally, their destiny's in their own hands. If they lose patience with Sean Dyche and ultimately sack Sean Dyche and bring in a David Moyes, for argument's sake, that could still be available, then I think they'll go down. But I think if they stick with Dyche, who knows how to get the job done, I think they'll be okay.
Tom goes on to say Everton are the Phil Mitchell of the Premier League. They will never be killed off no matter how many times you try. I think this is Everton's final year for me. I think they're dead and buried. I think they're gone. I really do. I can't see it. They should be beating teams like Bournemouth at home, especially when you're 2-0 up. I'd be fuming if I was an Everton fan. And you only had to see their reaction at the train at King's Cross train station when they come back from Tottenham. Just moving on quickly, Southampton's still looking for their first points, mate. It all seems a bit doom and gloom down on the south coast at the minute. I spoke to Martin today, and he's saying that fans want him out already. But ultimately, he's tried to stick with a team that got him there, and it hasn't quite worked out for Southampton. Are they in trouble, Doc, or do you think they'll be all right with the signings they've made in Ramsdale and Maxwell Cornet and so on?
So first and foremost, I want to say loud and clear, I've always liked Southampton, right? I don't have an issue with Southampton Football Club. I like how they do business. I like how they do things, right? And I generally like what they've been doing at the club. That being said, I don't think that the transfer window is going to save them. I don't think they've got enough quality there. I don't think Martins has got the experience to keep them in the Premier League, right? But here's the big but. The section of Southampton fan base, and I'm going to repeat what I just said, the section of Southampton fan base that are talking about Martins out is an absolute disgrace. Now, I was livid with Southampton fans when they were talking about Martin out just because he didn't get an automated promotion when they went into that playoff. 3 games in, what did they expect? Answer me this. What did they expect? Because I just think they're deluded. I think the selection of Southampton fans are absolutely deluded, you know. You're not a big Premiership team anymore, as in your team, and you're being found out against better teams. Like, what do you want?
No, I agree.
You tell me this: if Pochettino came back to Southampton tomorrow, would it be any different?
No, I still think they play the same style of football, to be honest.
That's what I mean.
So Tom says that Southampton are always going to go this way. He won't change the way how he plays. By December, he'll be sacked. Funny enough, the Southampton fan I spoke to earlier said that if it don't pick up, he will be sacked. But is it the manager's? The problem is I know you say he won't change how he plays. Should he change how he plays? Because he's brought in the players to play the way he wants to play, and that's how he played last year. And he's probably brought in a better goalkeeper than they had last year as well. So I don't see why he should change the way he plays because he's brought better players in. But
I also think, now I do understand with football can be a very, very fickle sport where people say the right things in front of a camera. But let's rewind a minute. Let's just rewind. This manager that you're talking about has a record at Southampton that no other manager's ever done with the run that he went on at Southampton, right? So the style of play that he had, yeah, and him as a manager has got a record that no other Southampton manager's ever done before. So first of all, that should give him a little bit of credit and a little bit of respect. On top of that, this manager's gotten back up. Now, the key point between this is the board gave him the backing before the playoff final and said, this is the man that we trust and this is the man that we believe is the right man for the job. So ultimately, you should know the style of play that he's playing at this point. You've now given him the players to play it. If that style of play is not good enough, why is sacking the manager going to make a blind bit of difference?
yeah, 100%, mate. I agree. Last 5 minutes of the show, Doc. I'm going to move on. The transfer window has now slammed shut. Thank God for that. I can now have a couple of months off of reading everyone being linked with West Ham United and their dog. Just a quick one. What did you make of Palace's final push in the transfer window? Obviously, Eddie Nketiah, what was it, 30 million, and Chalobah come in on loan, which was a last minute deal, and you brought in a defender. Am I right in saying I can't pronounce his name, but a defender from Wolfsburg, was it?
In Crocs.
Yeah. What did you make of your the last day business that Palace did?
And he brought Turner in as a backup keeper as well.
Oh, and Turner, yeah.
Absolutely delighted. Absolutely delighted. It was the right players that the fans wanted. I think it's players that you can completely and utterly see why we've gone from. I think if you watch all four players and how they play the game, they are very much Glasner's style of play. I think they're going to fit straight in nicely into the style of play. They're not going to need to change anything. And I think that they will hit the ground running quite quickly because they're going to need to, because they're all going to be playing a part quite quickly. I think the only issue with the window was the fact that we did want a left midfielder. Obviously, we was linked with Cornet from yourselves. I don't know much about Cornet myself. I've heard some good things, I've heard some negative things, but ultimately it was someone in that position. But I also think that Nketiah is going to be playing that position as well. I think you'll see Eddie playing on the left for Palace because he's not going to start in front of Mateta, that's for sure. So yes, there'll be games where we might go two up the top and he might go in there. I'm a little bit disappointed with the outgoings. I don't have an issue with the Sam Johnson going, and I think bringing Turner in ultimately, it's a much of a muchness. They're two strong backup goalkeepers for me, so I'm happy with that. And the 10 million we got is a good bit of business. So I don't have an issue with that one, but I liked Ayew. I liked him around the place, and I liked what he done on that left-hand side, and I honestly felt that he done a job. And I didn't have an issue with Edouard either. So I was a bit upset to see them both go, to be honest. Now, they've both gone on... sorry, Ayew's was sold. Edouard's gone on loan. Was it good business for the money? Yes. But now you've got to try and find someone to replace him for the sort of money that we got for him, which is a small fee. So, like I said... overall, I trust the process, and I'm happy with the players that have come in. I think they'll all be great. I generally do. I just feel that we could have still brought in that left midfielder, but again, we have got enough to cope with it. We just haven't got a natural player to do it. I think Eddie would go out there, or you've got Sarr that could go out there. There's plenty of options there, so I'm not concerned. But ultimately, I would like to have seen an attacking left winger come in if possible. What about yourself from West Ham now? I know you've been busy. I know that you were quite content. Obviously, the last day of the window, no one come in, is that right? Oh, no, you did. You brought one in on loan, didn't you?
Carlos Sola, didn't we, from Paris Saint-Germain?
Yeah.
I'm a bit gutted, mate, to be fair, because not the fact that we've brought him in, but the fact that we've let James Ward-Prowse go out on loan. I was very surprised by that, and I still can't get my head around it now. And for Maxwell Cornet, for me, fantastic bit of business. Just get rid of him because you missed a bullet there, mate. I'm telling you, you didn't want him at Crystal Palace. He was awful. But James Ward-Prowse surprised me, mate. It really did. Just because he was new, we'd spent a lot of money on him the summer before, and didn't really put much wrong last season. Was probably our highest. If there's such a thing, probably created more goals than anyone else in our midfield with his set pieces, and we just let him go out on loan to Nottingham Forest like that. Just don't sit right with me. And I think there's worse players in there for me. But basically, it was a toss up between him and Souček, and James Ward-Prowse was the one that went. But bit of a surprise. But Carlos Sola's come in. I don't know much about him, mate. I don't know if you do, but I don't know much about him, so it'd be interesting to see what he brings to the table. That's a bit different to everyone else, and we still haven't seen West Ham play with all these players. And I did say that they would be embedded in something where you're just going to chuck them in, but I think
you can't chuck them all in, can you?
No, I think Wan-Bissaka was decent Saturday. He was superb. Somerville looked all right when he come on. My only gripe, and I know I said it was a great signing when we bought him, but is this Fulkrug? He just sort of ain't getting into it for me. And we are only 3 games in, so I don't want to just start slating him here and now. But yeah, I'm just thinking, is this another striker that could go tits up for West
Can
Ham?
I can,
Because
can I chuck someone under a bus?
go on,
Certain person in the chat.
Tom.
I'm not going to name names, but there's someone in the chat. I'm not going to name names, but there's someone in the chat that basically said he is as good as Antonio.
Yeah, well, at the moment he's playing like he's as good as Antonio, but nah,
He
it's only
basically
3 games
said
in.
your
I don't want
manager is David Moyes in disguise, and this new striker is the new Antonio.
to. Well, at the moment he's not wrong, is he? It's like we're watching the same football as to be fair, our football's got a lot better under Lopetegui, but the teams are the same as David Moyes. But again, this full crack, it's only 3 games in, but I'm just thinking to myself, is he? We're just going to add him to the long list of strikers that we've had that have just failed. But
I
other
don't
than that,
think he's
I
a
was
West Ham
pretty.
striker, though, P. I
Hmm?
generally don't think he's a West Ham striker. I honestly thought it was a weird one. Now, I generally understand the hype behind him because of his reputation. But for me personally, from what I've seen of him before he's come, he is a lazy striker. That's not West Ham's mentality. I remember like a Defoe that would be busy, 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 and a Tony Cottee before that that was busy, busy, busy. Back in the day when you had a Frank McAvelli up top that would flick the ball on to two up the top, that was a different kettle of fish, and that's where you'd see this guy actually show his presence a little bit. But as a one up top, to me, he's not that guy. He's not that
No,
guy.
it's not. You're right. And at the moment, it shows. But listen, as I say, we're only 3 games in. Let's see. I was happy with our summer. I thought we went out and did it early. So yeah, Big P, he is so slow, and the way you're trying to move up the pitch, yeah, I get it, mate. I get it. I get it. But he is good in the air. But again, let's wait and see. It's 3 games in. Ask me at Christmas, and we'll talk again.
I'll tell you
But
what, I will ask you.
go on.
Let's talk about the West Ham Bournemouth Carabao Cup. Let's have a little chat about that just before we go.
Go on then.
How many legitimate goals did you score in the game?
None.
Do you want to abbreviate on that?
I'm not going to dress it up, Doug. I know what you're getting at. I haven't seen it back on telly, but I 100% he's offside. But whether it's his hand or his chest, I think it's his chest, but I haven't seen it back. So I will say it is chest. But other people are telling me is it his hand?
I've seen it in slow mo, and it definitely it hits his arm, not his hand. But ultimately, the goal should never have stood. Never,
No.
never, ever. If there was VAR there, there's no way it would have stood.
And that's why VAR ain't in the League Cup. But that way, we're going out in the next round anyway. We've got Liverpool away, so I'm not getting dressed up too much on that one. But
Let's
yeah,
hope that you can live with it.
who did you get in the next round of the Carabao Cup?
We got QPR.
Fair enough. Loftus Road or Sellers Park?
I want to see Eze show his former club what they're missing.
I generally think that you'll get the easiest run to the final, and I'm going to have to treat you to a day out in Wembley. I can just see it.
I'd love it. As long as it's not my
QPR away.
wedding day, because Jen would be really upset.
Well, I think you get married when you get married, and it'll be on a Sunday. It's normally the first weekend in April, isn't it? So
Oh,
you'll be
yeah,
all right.
good point.
You'll be all right. But guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Doc, do you want to promote Thursday or shall I?
I'll let you go. I'll let you break the news.
So, guys, on Thursday we have another show coming at 8:30. It is all things London. There's myself, West Ham, Doc Palace, as you know, and we have Tottenham Matty coming to join the show. It's a new show. We're hoping that it will go for ever, but we're going to try it out, see how it goes, and see what the feedback is. But yeah, Thursday night we have got another show, 8:30, all things London. talking West Ham, Palace, and Tottenham and I'm absolutely buzzing for it, Doc. I don't know about you, but I'm buzzing for it, mate.
Yeah, Matt is a really good lad. He brings a lot of charisma to the show, and he's got a very big personality that shines through. So I'm looking forward to it.
And last but not least, guys, if you don't already, please subscribe and like. It is much appreciated by me and Doc, and you will catch us on TikTok tomorrow. Have a good evening, all.